So the other day I made a video briefly touching on the issues with the First Descendants new Season 1 launch, and since that video, the developers released a dev note on changes and updates to the game as a result of all of the negative reception. The feedback on Season 1, aside from the paltry contents of the Season Pass, well, the skins and the emotes were good, but I mean, let's face it, the Season Pass was kind of mid. Most of the vocal outrage came from players who detested the idea of a solo-only mode, and they kind of put the developers on blast for it. I mean, Haley was tied to this puzzle challenge, and of course, let's not forget the bosses that could stomp your guts in as little as 3 seconds flat. When the devs came back with their dev notes, a lot of the issues were addressed, the puzzles would be dialed back, matchmaking would be added, and of course, Haley drop rates would be adjusted along with several other improvements to be added soon. But of course, when one group of players has a problem, there's the opposite reaction from the other side of the community. And things quickly went from players having an issue with a lackluster season and a bad mission to a distilled debate on game difficulty. One side says, game is too hard. The other side says, get good, you effing casuals. One side says, boss man one-shot my epic lepic. The other side says, oh well, I beat this with a level 1 and no mods after having just been born. Look, debates on game difficulty are like as old as time. I mean, they're right up there with subs versus dubs, PC versus console, controller versus keyboard and mouse, and I don't know, orange versus tangerine. Because I hate life, I'm going to throw my 2 cents into this cauldron of black swirling diarrhea, all for the sake of some views. Now, as someone that has watched this debacle with much interest, I've been reading all of these hot takes on the season mishap, and I've seen some very heated replies to players that have dared to leave a gripe about game difficulty. It's almost as if their value as a player was dependent on whether or not they could do the hardest activities, and only those who could take on the in-game content were worthy of playing at all or even having an opinion. This is the kind of attitude that has led to gaming culture settling into hardcore versus casuals, almost as if we're like tribal divisions. Hardcore gamers want a challenge and don't want the filthy casuals dumbing down their gaming enjoyment. The casuals just want to enjoy the game at a slower and often easier pace and don't want the hardcore players making the game unplayable with difficulty. And so as a result, you get wonderful comments like, well, if it's so hard, just go play something easier. Now, from what I've read, I don't think anyone really wants the game turned into Candy Crush or some kind of point-and-click adventure game. I mean, let's be realistic. Most of the players of the First Descendant at this point are kind of aware of what hard mode is. But what comes easy for some players will be a challenge for others. Not all gamers are going to progress the game at the same speed. Some players will be hard mode ready in a few days, some will be hard mode ready in a few years, and some not at all. Holding other players to our own level of expectation and ability is a recipe for disappointment. This is a multiplayer game, and whether we like it or not, we're all part of the same community. What typically affects one of us affects all of us. Now let's take Bunny for example. If they do nerf Bunny, who's to say it's not going to all be downhill from there? Who's to say that the next character that's perceived as overpowered won't get nerfed into oblivion? And then soon, every character gets nerfed, weapons get nerfed, some weapons get buffed, and then in a few years you end up with the certified mess. If the game's developers don't make some adjustments to the difficulty here and there, soon the whole game will exist entirely for only one group of players, and the game's viability as a live service will be put into question. Live service games count on the loyalty of the hardcore player base, but they also greatly depend on the influx of new casual gamers that only have 3 hours on a Saturday night to play. These bright-eyed wonders are the ones that will gladly spend their hard-earned cash on descendants and skins since they don't have time to grind for them. So when a casual player says, "This is too hard, I lost to this boss like 5 times and now I want to uninstall," this is always going to be cause for alarm. And if the first Descendant is inaccessible to easy mode players, it will eventually be a dead game. If every casual player left the game tomorrow, it would be a dead game. And this is the problem that the dev team faces. How do they cater to the hardcore crowd without alienating the casual players that come in fresh and bright-eyed looking for a fun experience? At the end of the day, I'm sorry to say that if Nexon had to make a choice between making money from filthy casuals or catering exclusively to the hardcore crowd, they would probably make this game all easy mode. And well, believe it or not, no one wants that. Where most players were irate about the difficulty, aside from being one shot by the boss, was that Haley was tied to this solo-only hard mode difficulty in the first place. People were used to being able to matchmake, do things together cooperatively. This was seen as a deliberate attempt by the game developers to force the players into spending. There was no casual grind. There was no, I'm going to log in and take my time and grind for a character like I've done for every other character in the game. It was all hardcore or go to the shop. And that level of predatory monetization is exactly what we don't want. There's a reason you aren't seeing an abundance of Haleys in the game day 1 or day 2. Because it was bullshit. I don't realistically expect the casuals and the hardcore gamers to ever really get along. In fact, I'm sure the toxic levels in the community will only rise the longer the game goes on, from both sides. But I just hope that we can at least meet in the middle when it counts and help give constructive feedback to the devs and have a somewhat enjoyable experience. The first Descendant is going to have some ups and downs. I mean, we're still very new to this game. And of course, whenever it has its downs, we're going to bitch about it because that's how we get changes to happen, as long as the devs listen to us. So hopefully we can make some changes that will positively affect the game for everyone, both hardcore gamers and those filthy effing casuals. So now let's turn the questions over to you. What are your thoughts on this new season of The First Descendant and the changes that the developers are making as a result of all of the negative feedback? Are you getting the massive beatdown from the bosses, or have you swooped through the activity and already crafted Haley? Let me know by heading to the comments and making with some conversation. Guys, that's it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, then be sure to hit that like button. And of course, if you are new to the channel and you want to see more videos like this talking about video game news and updates, then be sure to subscribe and hit the icon so that you can get ahead of all of those filthy unsubbed viewers. Have an amazing day, everyone. Keep being awesome, and I will see you all in the next video.